Hi, this is Rich Altman, and we're coming to you live from Fintech Meetup in Las Vegas for the Lending Link. And this morning, we're fortunate enough to have Mike Horrocks, Senior Vice President of Corporate Strategy and Product Marketing with Baker Hill. How you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. How are you doing?
Good, good. Thank you for joining us this morning. So I think you've been at Baker Hill for quite a while.
Yeah, it's been almost over 22 years.
Okay, great. And I also see that you spent some time at Experian.
Yeah, during that time of Experian, I owned Baker Hill for about 7 to 8 years.
Okay, great. So Senior Vice President, Corporate Strategy and Product Marketing. Why don't you just give us a little background on what that really means?
Yeah, so it's really just guiding the company of where we want to be in terms of the ecosystem when it comes to commercial lending, small business lending, risk management. I do a lot of work with our partners, do a lot of work with our clients, who we view as an integral part of our strategy, right? So working with our advisory board, our user community board as well, and then also helping convey the message of what we can do for banks. Because our opinion is there's a lot that's out there, and it's the quote yesterday was used: the difference between a stumbling stone and a stepping stone is how you use it, right? And
right.
So we like to try to educate financial institutions on how they can best automate and improve their lending practices while taking advantage of all the great tech that's there as well.
So it's good segue. So when we think about the evolution of underwriting, certainly, consumer lending is really where it began.
Mm-hmm.
We're certainly seeing a lot of use of it in small business lending today.
Yeah.
But on the commercial lending side, it seems like it creates some challenges that you may not have in consumer lending. So why don't you talk about some of the product side of how you are helping commercial lenders more automate their underwriting process?
Yeah, when you look at the commercial lending process, a lot of it's just around that collection of all the different data sources that are coming into it. So I think you have to look at, first of all, the financial information. How can I automate and how can I make it so that I'm not spending time with 10 key type activities, but I'm actually having my financial analyst analyze and look at the data, right? Understand what's happening there. Same thing when you look at the collateral. Collateral is really more complex. You're looking at, multiple, CRE deals and the appraisals and everything around that. Anything we can do to streamline that data input and give a more holistic view in seconds rather than days or hours, that's what's an advantage to a commercial deal. We're never going to say you can turn a commercial deal in hours, right? There's just too much at risk, right? And you got to mitigate all that risk. But it's really making it so that we're eliminating all those unessential data gathering moments and making them now be essential analytic and insightful moments.
At GS, through our Medallica platform, we've gotten heavily involved with open banking data, Plaid, Yodlee, Decision Logics, also working with Codat and Validus on QuickBooks types data.
Yep.
Are those being incorporated into your next gen?
Absolutely. You mentioned Validus, right? So Validus is definitely a partner that we leverage as well. And then we also have a very open AI that allows us to take advantage of the different data sources you just mentioned as well. So it's really about pulling in all that data and making it available to be served out back to that commercial banker.
Right. So when we think about commercial lending versus you guys are also involved with small business lending.
Correct.
and consumer lending, what's kind of like that threshold that you consider a commercial loan versus a small business loan?
That's like the $1 million question for a lot of people. And sometimes $1 million is where it's at, right? But I think a lot of it depends really on the risk appetite of the bank. I think the biggest concern, the biggest challenge that I see is when you have institutions that have, a $25,000, used truck delivery van type loan, but they're treating it like a $25 million, C&I loan. And so, to me, it's not necessarily that balance, but in terms of dollars, right? But it's that balance in terms of what do I want to spend on the risk, right? What's the appetite that I have for that risk? And I think institutions really need to make that be the driver, not just the dollar amount, right? We'll look at the overall risk of the deal.
Okay. So as a product guy, and you think about your roadmap for 2024, Any innovations that you could share with us that you're evaluating?
I think, again, going back to the analysis, right? Really helping make sure that everything from how do I look at that global, 360 cash flow view, and how do I make that really efficient? That's one of the key areas that we're going to be focusing it on.
How does the geopolitical challenges we're facing today get incorporated into commercial underwriting? It seems like that's something that certainly would be a piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, it's interesting. I just had a conversation with some friends from Davos around ESG and some of the aspects that you'd be talking around with the geopolitical. I think you definitely need to be looking at, and our bankers they're looking at supply chain issues. They're looking at the items that would impact their borrowers' ability to function, right? Mm-hmm. But I would say also in the area that we're focused at, which is really super regional down to community banks, we tend to see a little less geopolitical concern. Right? I think that's much more a concern when you're talking, around the B of A's and the Wells.
Okay,
right. But when we're talking to a bank of $2 billion, geopolitical, really at that point, it's more going to be around suppliers versus anything else. Right?
Okay. So I was looking at your site, getting prepared for our session this morning, and I see it listed CECL, which is current expected credit losses.
Yeah.
So at GDS, we actually were fortunate. We had a client outside the U.S. Who saw a value in our software for IFRS 9 calculations, and I was asked to try to focus and see if we could bring it to the CECL market in the U.S. and didn't really make headways there because it seemed when I was investigating it some time ago that there was still a lot of confusion in the market about how it was being adopted, when it was going to be adopted. Yep. Where in Europe, IFRS 9 I think it was January 2018. You have no choice. Maybe just a little update on where CECL is.
The way that we look at CECL right now is, I have to say, hats off to the folks at FASB for making that Excel spreadsheet widely available for a lot of FIs, because the way I look at it, most FIs can probably now address their CECL actually through that. So we do have CECL, but we've seen very few institutions that are actually needing it because they'll either do it through the Excel spreadsheet that FASB put out there, or others that will actually be able to take advantage of that. So,
great. So, yeah, like a lot of us, you lived through COVID. Any thoughts on sharing how COVID impacted some of your clients?
I would say gratefully it accelerated the digitalization.
Right?
Yeah. I think we all saw that. And, I think you saw institutions that were wondering whether or not they needed to have a digital front door for small business lending in particular, right? And now the answer to that is a resounding yes.
Right.
So
yeah, it was definitely accelerant.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Put the gas on it.
So does the next gen solution come with a front end component, or is that?
Yeah. So we have the ability to have that front end and that portal, right, for that small business, commercial, and for consumer. Now, from an application, obviously, it's more small business and consumer, right? But it has that portal to support like the CFO gathering data, gathering all the documents.
Okay. What about, we just, before you joined us this morning, our first guest was with a company called Verdata, like Medeli. Are you familiar with them?
No, not.
Yeah, so they're a small business database contributory. You should actually talk to Mike.
Fantastic.
What are some of the companies that you use in that space? You use like PayNet, Dun & Bradstreet.
Yeah, we use Equifax, Experian, DNB, right? And then we have, over 40 different partners. Okay, we look at the ecosystem of other data that supports that, right? So from fraud to flood to, you name it, it's a pretty broad ecosystem of partners that we support.
So getting a little personal, I see that you're an adjunct lecturer at Keller School of Business.
Yeah, doing some work for the school there.
Yeah, how long you been doing that?
For a couple of years. So they have a great program where they introduce students to the BRICS, right? A little less Russia nowadays, right? But they introduce them to businesses in India, China, and Brazil. And I had the fortunate experience of living in Brazil for a couple of years.
Oh, cool.
And so I actually, whenever they do the Brazilian rotation, I help out on that. So it's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Great place to go.
Yeah, I had the opportunity recently to give a class on networking, actually, human networking, not technical networking, at the university up in West Carolina. So little birdie telling me that you're really into Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
And that you actually conduct a light show.
Yeah, so every Christmas, I'm one of those. My wife, is a joke, actually let me buy a kit that would, set your lights to music and whatnot. And one night only, we work with the fabulous guys that dress up like the stormtroopers and Darth Vader.
Right.
It's a charitable organization.
Fantastic.
Money for local food bank.
Okay.
And so we'll have hundreds of people show up that night, get photos with the stormtroopers, and it's a good time. It's fun.
Well, good. Well, Mike, I want to thank you for your time this morning. Once again, this is Rich Altman coming to you live from Fintech Meetup. We just had an opportunity to talk with Mike Horrocks, the SVP of Corporate Strategy and Product Marketing. So, Mike, maybe the pleasure be with you.
Hey, thank you. Same to you. Bye now.
Bye-bye.